tariffs are like whiskey. A little whiskey under the right circumstances can be refreshing. Too much whiskey under the wrong circumstances, and you end up drunk as a goat.
Now, that might be the best analogy I've ever heard, let alone the best way to currently describe what is happening with these tariffs. There's just no way to know how the world is going to react. Now, in this video, we will go over some reactions from CNN, MSNBC, and let me tell you something, they're a little bit divided out there. One thing we all know for sure is that the stock market, it is crashing, but that was expected. Now, in this first clip, I am going straight to Scott Jennings, and I think he typically represents Republicans well as far as the general talking points, so let's get to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, elections are ultimately about choices. They aren't, you don't have them in a vacuum. And I would just argue back to Kamala Harris that, I told you so. I agree. I told you so. Donald Trump was going to close the southern border. I told you so. He was going to bring order to immigration. I told you so. He was going to drag this country out of the left-wing cultural ditch and put us back towards more mainstream, middle of the road.
You think he's done the last thing?
I did tell you so. Now, he's also...
Now, a little bit of context, spoiler alert, we will be watching a clip from Kamala Harris. Please don't click away. We have to do it to give you guys the context, but just warning you now, there is a Kamala Harris clip in here, so you guys have the full context. Once in a while, she just pops up out of nowhere to do these speeches, and you'll see what I mean here in a bit.
Also executing, as you all have acknowledged, his economic agenda, just as he said he was going to do. He's enacting tariffs, and he's asking the Congress to make the tax cuts permanent, and he's unleashing American energy. So I agree. It is I told you so, and about half the country is okay with it, and about half the country voted for it. So it strikes me that this is a healthy level of copium going on right now among Democrats who are telling themselves stories that the people who voted for this are not happy with it. The vast majority, if not everyone who voted for Donald Trump, is some level of happiness ranging from 9 to 10 on the happiness scale.
Completely disagree.
All right, so look, that is the main talking point for Republicans right now, and I think Scott Jennings does represent this well. If you are a Republican and you'd voted for Donald Trump, you saw this coming. Now, again, the other argument is if you want no taxes or you want this massive tax reduction where anybody who makes $150,000 and lower, you don't pay any taxes, you got to do something about it. You got to make more money, and to Donald Trump and his staff, the tariffs are the way to compensate for missing out on these taxes. Now, let's just go straight to the Kamala Harris clip. Again, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I know some of you guys are not the biggest fans of Kamala Harris, but here we go.
There is a sense of fear that has been taking hold in our country. And I understand it. But we're saying people stay quiet. We are seeing organizations stay quiet. We are seeing those who are capitulating to clearly unconstitutional threats. And these are the things that we are witnessing.
By the way, if you have not watched my most recent video, this is all really interesting to watch. Now that we know Barack Obama didn't even really want her to run, and we also know now that Hillary Clinton, of all people, actually wanted a mini election or bid to make sure people wanted Kamala Harris to run. So if you haven't, just go look up my most recent video, because watching this now is rather interesting, knowing that a lot of Democrats were not actually on Kamala Harris's side.
Each day in these last few months in our country. And it understandably creates a great sense of fear. Because, there were many things that we knew would happen. Many things. I'm not here, so I told you so.
Trust me, as far as that 9 out of 10 stat with Scott Jennings, I think America has spoken, And I don't think people even wanted Kamala Harris to be the president. But again, I know she's doing a speech, so she's got to do her thing. Now, I was curious. These are world leaders reacting. To give a little bit of a disclaimer, this is obviously from MSNBC, so without a doubt, most likely this is going to make Donald Trump or attempt to try and make Donald Trump look bad. One thing we know for sure, and I already talked about it, Canada is willing to drop their tariffs if the United States is willing to drop their tariffs. Mexico, they're not trying to play this game. But what we do know right now is that China made a very big move. They're willing to counter tariff with 35%. It's not that I don't think anyone saw this coming, but Donald Trump did say, not the greatest move, China, because we know you need us. So let's see this clip.
I just want to play a little bit of world leaders reacting to, again, not just the tariffs themselves, but the breadth and the depth of them.
Clearly, there will be an economic impact from the decisions that the US has taken, both here and globally. But I want to be crystal clear. We are prepared.
The administration's tariffs have no basis in logic, and they go against the basis of our two nations partnership. This is not the act of a friend.
I deeply regret the United States' decision to impose 20% tariffs on imports from across the European Union. We see no...
Again, to give you guys context, and I think you guys know this, they're acting as if they weren't giving us a bad rate as well. So again, remember, as you're watching this, if you don't know anything that's going on, you're like, yeah, we are bad friends. I mean, we fought World War II together and we're supposed to be friends. What did Australia do? What did the EU do? They gave us some pretty terrible rates. And I'm not even trying to be biased here, but let's be honest. If you look at the chart and look at the economic stances, I understand tariffs can be a very, very bad negotiating deal because it does come off as aggressive. But guys, go look at the tariff rates. They were not that nice to us.
No justification for this.
They were all unjustified, unwarranted, and in our judgment, misguided.
Okay, that's the UK, the EU, Ireland, Australia, and Canada. Ed, these are all of our friends.
That's the point. They're our friends. And again, it's like MSNBC has proven our point. They are our friends. So we should all come together and have better deals. Unfortunately, I don't have the graph for you guys as far as what the percentages were. I made a video about it. You can go watch it, I think, a couple videos ago. But that's the point. They're supposed to be our friends. Now, again, MSNBC, they're turning this into the worst case scenario ever. At the end of the day, what every single person does have to admit is we don't necessarily know what is going to happen. But again, what we do know are the direct reflections as far as stock market or what other world countries are saying. These countries can say things up front and right now. But again, as far as them actually implementing more tariffs on the United States, then we can have this discussion.
Can you walk us through the numbers? And is there...
And by the way, real quick, every single economist has a different opinion on what exactly is going on. So I'm sure MSNBC definitely did not pick an economist who's going to make Donald Trump look bad. I'm sure of it, right?
Any positive take on this?
Well, I can answer the second question first. I don't think there's a single positive take on this. This is all just bad. It's bad, as we talked about before, for inflation. It's bad for economic growth. It's bad for everything. But let me put this a little bit in perspective. We talked about the stock market today and how bad a day it's going to have. This chart predates that, and it goes back really to the election. And I want to just show you, because Trump's got a bunch, as we also talked briefly about before, of other economic and challenges he's facing. And so the stock market, which is this red line, our stock market, we start out here. And he was doing pretty well after the election. There was this burst of Trump euphoria, as we saw in 2016 as well. But since Inauguration Day, it has basically been straight down for our stock market. And that is a combination of anticipation of these tariffs.
It just might have something to do with the fact of, trying to destroy the Tesla stock. That might have a little bit to do with it, and a lot of other circumstances as well. Just throwing that out there.
But also just all the chaos and commotion down there, the cutting, the Doge, all this stuff and the uncertainty has really scared the market. And that's actually in stark contrast. China, which has had a terrible run in its stock market, has actually done exceptionally well. And even Europe, which is certainly nothing to brag about on the economic front, has way outperformed us. So Trump had a set of challenges already, as represented by the stock market before.
Okay, so now, again, I just want to point out, it's just very ironic that MSNBC will play this clip and talk about how, look, the stock market is crashing under Trump, but then they will also play clips of other MSNBC hosts, like Tim Walz would go on there, and it's him laughing at the stock market crashing, or Tesla specifically, and not be like, hey, why don't we help out American companies? Go invest in American companies. And meanwhile, they're just laughing at them. Again, I see a little bit of hypocrisy here, but obviously it is MSNBC. Now, there is some good news for Donald Trump. The jobs have gone up within the United States.
I can tell you this, right now, what we're seeing was positive. We blew it out of the water. Even all the economists that looked at this thought we were going to have a depressed jobs report, and we didn't. So that's a testament to the president, the economic output that he is doing. Look at the Rose Garden that we had the other day. Who was in the audience? It was all the American workers. We had our Teamsters there. We had our United Auto Workers there. We're seeing those investments pay off, and I would expect that to continue.
Well, that completely changes the narrative within 1 second, doesn't it? So again, yes, the stock market is not always the exact best representation of the economy. It's just the best clickbait, if you will. It's the most visible. It's the most in real time. But again, out of nowhere, now this stat comes out. Well, actually, there is job growth and there are more jobs out there, despite Kamala Harris saying otherwise and trying to fearmonger. Now, check out this clip.
Let Donald Trump fix the American economy.
But just to follow up with you, when the first time he did tariffs, we did see prices rise on products that were tariffed. That's according to Goldman Sachs compared to non-tariff products.
We had the lowest inflation ever.
The manufacturing sector went into a mild recession in the fall of 2019. What gives you so much certainty? And by the way, this is more aggressive and the economy is in a different place with inflation and consumer sentiment. What gives you so much certainty that this is going to work and that this isn't going to hurt the everyday American?
The largest tariff and trade barrier country in the world is China. And they don't have inflation. So these things don't occur the way people suggest they do. This is a reordering of global trade for the benefit of America. These people have all been living in our house. They've been driving our car. They come by and visit, open our fridge, and eat our food whenever they want. They've taken advantage of us. Today was the day of the beginning of saying, I'm sorry, you can't just live for free off of us. You have to pay. And what's going to happen is...
And look, that again is the main argument for the Trump administration and for Republicans who do want this to happen. According to Scott Jennings, it's 9 out of 10. Let me know down below if you are one of the 9 out of 10. Now, one thing I will say is this. I don't really see any denial from the Trump administration as far as this might be a little tough up front. In fact, I'm almost positive there are people within the Trump administration who did say, yeah, there might be a little bit of issues up front, but we gotta fix the situation. Again, the end goal is for the Trump administration to get to the no taxes, because once we get to no taxes, if we do get there, nobody will be talking about these tariffs or any of these economic deals.
The United States of America will get stronger. Our economy will grow much, much faster than the rest of the world.
All right,
right? If you were going to
say
say
we have to get a break in, we're not going anywhere because we're going to continue
where we're going is our markets are going to be up. And I understand that it's tough for the global markets, but our market, you should be betting on Donald Trump and the United States market.
Now, as we know, Donald Trump does want the auto industry in the United States 100%. And look, so do a lot of other Democrats, but when it comes to cheaper labor or cheaper parts, it's just easier for these auto industries to stay afloat and go overseas to get this done. Now, I found this Fox News interview that definitely gives us a really cool insight as to how the auto industry is feeling and whether or not they are worried about these tariffs and if Donald Trump made the right decision.
Is with me. He is the founder of Auto Workers for Trump, joins me now. Brian, you were at the White House speaking with Mr. Trump at the tariff announcement. Now, there is some pain with these tariffs. Are you prepared for the pain?
Absolutely. We expected it, Stuart. And I think people just need to be patient, have faith, and trust Trump.
Are you prepared to live with the pain if it goes on for a long time? I mean, months.
Stuart, we've been living with pain in Detroit for 30 or 40 years. We know we're going to have to go through some changes here over the next 6 or 8 months, but a year or two from now, I think a lot of the analysts, the so-called experts, are going to be singing the praises of Donald Trump's tariff strategy.
Again, that is like the main theme. Nobody actually knows what is going to happen. And as far as this pain argument or emotional argument. I mean, Democrats right now, I really think have a little bit of the upper hand, especially if we do see, you know, here very soon, if prices do go up with everyday items, we know that the everyday American is going to have some questions like, hey, how long is this going to last? And then we're probably going to see it all over the media. Oh, this started happening ever since we did these tariffs, but we were told it's going to get better. Again, I'm not saying this is my argument, but definitely expect this argument to come very soon, especially if things like shampoo or whatever starts going up just a little bit. Again, Democrats were talking about eggs for the longest time. They dropped all the way down, and now all of a sudden we're not even talking about it.
Now, there are plans for some foreign car makers to bring their plants, bring their factories and open them up in the United States, build here to produce here. I see a problem with this in that it takes years, 3, 4, 5 years to build an auto plant. No. Time is a problem, isn't it?
No, Stuart, I disagree with the premise of what you're suggesting. 4 or 5 years to build an auto plant, not even close. There are idled plants. They closed an engine plant in Macomb County a couple of years ago. It's in Romeo, Michigan. You can check into it. It's sitting idle. It's like a vacant warehouse. They've stripped the old tooling out of there. It's ready for new tooling to be put.
Now, I don't know about you, but I do follow a lot of like car podcast and auto industry things. This right here, why it's being asked, is the #1 critique to this policy. And again, I think a lot of people take Trump for granted as far as the people around him. I really don't think Trump would be this, like, he would go so far into these tariffs without knowing that we could create these cars very fast. One of the biggest critiques is that it'll take 5 to 10 years to build these auto plants. So this is the first time I'm hearing this. You're actually getting a genuine reaction. This is the first time I'm hearing somebody debunk this in the car industry and saying, no, this is not completely true. There are plants that are ready to go right now.
Put in. They could have that plant up and running inside of 6 months. So I think you're being overly pessimistic when you start saying, 3, 4, 5 years. No, how about a year to 2 years on new plants and 6 months to a year on retooling existing idle plants? Look at what Stellantis just announced in Belvidere, Illinois. They had that idled plant. They probably weren't putting a new product in there if Kamala Harris got in. Why? Because they're going to phase out combustion engines. But all of a sudden, Trump gets elected, bang, they're putting a new pickup truck in there. So I'm very optimistic, very confident in President Trump's.
Whoever is in charge of Republican talking points or independent Republican media, you need to be putting this guy on your shows. Because again, my understanding, and I don't know if I'm wrong, I don't know if this guy has to be an expert, right, if he's on TV. No, but for real. To me, I always thought the biggest issue was the 5-year to 10-year thing, where if a new manufacturing plant was to be created to combat tariffs or to be in the United States, 5 to 10 years is a very, very long time, a very long investment. And obviously, if we know investors are a little worried right now from what we can see in the stock market, that is the biggest issue with all of this. But again, it's a little shocking news to me. I did not know this. You're getting a genuine reaction here. But yeah, that is currently what's going on right now. Let me know how you guys feel about this. Again, left-leaning media is running with this. The stock market's crashing. Kamala Harris, I told you guys everything is terrible. It's all getting horrible. We will just have to wait and see. Again, this could all be the worst news ever for the next 6 months, but if somehow Republicans can figure out, because again, in September, we are going to come out with a new budget and deal. If Republicans can actually figure out how to put no taxes on Americans who make $150K and lower, none of us will care that this happened. That's just how Americans operate. You give us a good deal, we will forgive you. You give us a bad deal, you're the worst person ever. So we'll see what happens. Thank you guys for watching the video. God bless, and we'll see you guys later.